in an ideal world, I would love to see veterinary technicians and veterinary medical students being educated together through their 4 years, because there are so many things that are foundational to the success of both. And what an amazing opportunity in a safe, controlled environment of school, and having trained instructors, facilitators to help to model this.
Welcome to the Vet Life Reimagined podcast. My guest today is Virginia Corrigan, and from a young age, Virginia had the budding interest in animal medicine and teaching. She has her Master of Public Health degree and residency in advanced canine and feline practice, but she really thrives in places where she can learn and teach. Virginia's journey has been one of mentorship, and it was a good mentor who told her about an opportunity leading a brand new online veterinary technician program through Appalachian State University in North Carolina. We talk about the importance of advancing veterinary education and some of the ways that it's happening today. This is a fantastic conversation. So on to Virginia. Let's go back to where it started. When did you know you first wanted to get into veterinary medicine?
Yes, I was one of those kids who knew she was going to be a veterinarian from a very young age. I've listened to your podcast and I've heard the stories, and my story isn't too terribly different from a lot of your guests. It's funny because the picture I have behind my computer is actually a picture of me when I was about 7 years old, holding my cat, Magic. And it's there to remind me of that really beautiful moment where I just knew that's exactly what I wanted to do. But I'd like to add something to that. I thought about as I reflected on that question, because I knew you were going to ask it. I also always knew I was going to be an educator. And it's funny when I think about this, because I can always remember the moment where I knew I was going to be a veterinarian. Secretly, when I was that same age, when I'd come home from the barn after being there for hours and hours and hours on end, I would come home and I would make tests and quizzes and flashcards for my friends on all of the horse breeds and all of the different history of equestrian sports. And that moment didn't come back to me until I was talking about this with another friend. And I said, oh, wow, I was also always meant to be an educator, because I really those two things have always gone hand in hand for me. And I didn't know it until very recently. Fast forward to 2021, kind of towards the tail end of COVID, I think, life had many turns during that time. I am now a mother of 3 children, and that all happened during that time, 5, 3, and 1 at this point. And it was time for a change. It was time to spread my wings and to discover where I could really make a positive impact in veterinary medicine. And I think this story is a story of mentorship. The more I think of it, because another amazing mentor knew that I was considering a change, and she called me. She said that there is a new veterinary technology program that is going to be starting at Appalachian State University, and they're looking for a veterinarian to be the program director. Is that something that you would be interested in? Because I think you'd be really good at it. And as I've shared before, I laughed and I thought, there's no way I could do that. I don't know anything about veterinary technology education. My best friends that I work with are veterinary technicians. I respect them immensely, and I could not do my job without them. But I just don't know anything about that whole aspect of veterinary medical education. She said, I just think you should think about it. And so I thought about it, and I said, wow, what an opportunity to start a new program, to start from scratch and say, okay, here are the challenges that I've experienced. Here are the challenges that I see out there. What could I do about that? Could I help and make a difference? I interviewed and was really fortunate to be selected. And since September 2021, I've been the program director here at Appalachian State University of the new 4-year bachelor's program in veterinary technology. So I never would have thought that this was possible. And it's been an amazing, amazing experience.
Hey, thank you for watching Vet Life Reimagined. This is still a growing channel on YouTube, so liking the video, subscribing to the channel, leaving comments, and sharing the show all go a long way right now, and it is all seen and appreciated. Now, back to the conversation. Well, okay, so you've done this now for over a year, and I can only imagine you've learned so much in that 1 year. So, what have you learned?
I have learned to be humble because I thought I knew some things and I still feel like I'm learning a lot. I admit I carry around the AVMA accreditation guidelines with me everywhere I go, and I'm constantly rereading them because there's so much to know, so many details. And yeah, when I started the position, I had to be a sponge. I had to learn everything. I just went to my LinkedIn profile. I went to all of these virtual conferences because COVID was still really a factor at that point. And I just reached out to as many people as I could. And I said, I really want to talk to you. I want to learn from you. I want to understand what the issues are. I want to understand what works well. What are the challenges? What could be done better? Because, plot twist, it's an online program. And I had never worked in an online program before. Of course, with COVID, we were teaching our students online, but it was very, let's get on Zoom and talk about cases. And, it wasn't very methodical as we all felt that way. And so I had to not only learn all there was about veterinary technology education, I had to really become a bookworm on online education and online program development. And I'm still on that learning curve. I will say, I think since vet school, it's definitely been the most dramatic learning curve I think I've had. And I just really had to be humble and understand and recognize what I didn't know. And I'm still there. And I think what I've learned is the most important thing that I've learned is to surround myself with an excellent team. And I think that is the number one thing that I'm the most proud of is I spent a lot of time and a lot of effort recruiting and fortunately hiring some of the very best people, and they have lifted me up because the gaps, the strengths that I didn't have, they've really jumped right in and had those things. And so we've worked really well together. So I've learned a lot about, the ins and outs of creating a new program, working through all those administrative steps. And really it's about people, it's about finding the right people, and passion really shines through, even if it's through the screen. And so building an online program, what's been really important to me is to find people who not only are just really amazing at what they do in veterinary medicine, skilled, technically and in their knowledge, they also really need to have that passion, because we have to kind of go above and beyond, I think, to really engage our students when it comes to being online. There's more barriers than when you're in person. So I think that's the number one thing that I've learned is surround yourself with amazing people and spend a lot of time and a lot of effort to find them and to keep them.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's such a good lesson for work, for life, is to have that good team around you. And the idea of a virtual program is fascinating. We live in a time where finding people to be in clinic, understaffing, those types of things are concerns. So it's common conversation to talk about, well, how do we improve that? We could build more programs if we were virtual and there were no geographical concerns. That said, both veterinarian as well as veterinary technician have a lot of clinical skills, technical skills that we need to learn that are very hard to do virtually. So how have you overcome that barrier?
To me, that was the biggest piece of that learning curve. I had to really sit down and say, okay, how do you do a really good online program when veterinary medicine and veterinary technology and veterinary nursing is so hands-on? So for that, I look to the other online veterinary technology programs. There's about 10 total. And I talked to them. I said, hey, how do you do this? How do you integrate the hands-on skills and the essential skills training with the didactic learning? I think that's really the key, is figuring out how to do that part, because I really believe strongly, in the philosophy that we don't learn through experience, we learn by reflecting on experience. So there's these safe spaces to create this reflective practice, so that this day-to-day in and out work in the clinic can actually come back to, these safe spaces and facilitated conversations. And that really leads to some growth and excellent learning opportunities. And the students will also be doing focused clinical externships during their summer. So that's where they're going to be focusing on those essential skills. So the CVTEA, the Committee on Veterinary Technician Education and Activities, through the AVMA, has over 350 psychomotor and didactic skills that our students have to be able to accomplish by the time they graduate. And so that's really where the rubber meets the road, is making sure that they're able to do all of those technical skills competently by the time they graduate. So we're really focusing right now on developing clinical affiliate sites. And if anyone out there is interested in being a clinical affiliate site with our program, we are actively recruiting. And we really want to get to attract the high quality programs and clinical sites that our students will be able to thrive in. And it has not been an issue. We have many, many interested clinics because, of course, the workforce shortage is quite real. And what a better way to attract, retain, and grow your veterinary technicians and nurses, put them through school, hire them as a veterinary assistant, then help them to go through an online veterinary technology program like the one here at App State. And then they get to learn alongside your staff and you really support them through that incredibly important aspect of their life, which is their education. So we're really, really proud to be able to fill that gap. There's 100% the need for in-person brick and mortar veterinary technology programs as well. What we know is that some students learn better in person, some learn better online because they have that drive. They're able to be very self-motivated. They have a lot of intrinsic motivation, and those are the students who really will do best. And we have students coming to us who feel that way. That being said, not every student is going to feel that way or to have that strength. So I love that there are both types of programs out there. And so I think that they really complement one another very well.
Yeah. And thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth with this is an opportunity to add value to veterinary assistants in the hospital and all of those benefits that you listed. And I like that you approached this opportunity, this challenge, by asking questions. And so as it sounds like you are very attuned with the students, and these students, most of them are working in clinic at the same time. What are you hearing from the veterinary technicians today? Because I've had several veterinary technicians on. There are definitely some challenges. So, and I'm curious as what are they expressing as concerns when it comes to jobs and just overall the environment of veterinary medicine? But then on the flip side, what are they excited about? What keeps them excited to be doing these classes and to stay in this profession?
I think that's a fantastic question. And I think that the narrative is being heard by the pipeline of students that we've recruited and earlier. And I think there are positives and negatives of the narrative. On the positive side, I think the message of it's a great time to get a job in veterinary medicine is out there. I think that the message of there's a workforce shortage and we need veterinary technicians and you will have multiple job opportunities, that is getting out there. And they very much understand that this is a fantastic time for them to be educating themselves in the field of veterinary technology. On the negative side, the narrative of burnout, of low wages, of job dissatisfaction, and poor retention, particularly of veterinary technicians, credentialed veterinary technicians, is also out there. And in this program and in in life, I should say, I really value transparent communication. And I think you have to have both sides of that narrative because they're both true. And so we're quite clear with the students in their first course. We lay the landscape and we get different voices. We have a diverse set of existing content as well as guest lecturers that come in and provide their story. And so with the challenges in mind, these students are amazing. They understand that these are the challenges, and it's not going to just fix itself overnight. It takes a village, as I think you've mentioned before, Megan, to come together. And it really is going to take all of us to see what impact that we can have to make these things better. And so I think that what they are really fortunate to have in this program is extremely strong mentors, and all of my faculty and staff and, all of the interactions that they're having are with credentialed veterinary technicians who are absolutely incredible and are very positive, but also don't sugarcoat, here are the challenges, they're out there. And what we're really aiming to do is to create a program that will help equip our students with not only those essential technical competencies, and also they will be learning about well-being. They'll be learning about communication, leadership, teamwork, these aspects that haven't been as focused on, but really need to be when we think about what are the skills, what are the tools we can put in their toolbox to help them really thrive and succeed? Because we need them. We need them to be leaders. We need them to step up and to be part of the conversation and to advocate for the profession. And we need more of that. And interestingly, there actually was a study looking at graduates of bachelor's programs in veterinary technology and graduates of associate's degree programs in veterinary technology. And it turns out that statistically, they are much more likely to stay in the field longer with a bachelor's degree. And I think that's really interesting. And I don't know all the reasons why. My thoughts on it are that they have so many different options available to them. So, for example, I have colleagues, friends who love the field of veterinary medicine, but physically just can't do it anymore. There's, for one reason or another, or life circumstances, and say, okay, well, where can I take this next without leaving the field entirely? So I'm really proud that we have developed advanced level courses that will provide them those different types of career paths so they can stay in veterinary medicine, even if it looks a little bit different than the traditional clinical path.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I like how you said you were adding on like the well-being and all of those other concepts, and pulling back something that you said earlier, and I probably won't say it just right, but it's you don't learn by doing, but you learn by reflecting on what you did or something. How did it go? Did I say that right?
Yes, very close. So we don't learn by experience, we learn by reflecting on experience.
Yes. And I like how this particular program, the way it's designed, especially with so many actively in clinic, you can reflect not only on the clinical skills, but what about, if they're already seeing the burnout, you have that opportunity to reflect on that with them. So I think that's a really special thing about this program. And I think some of these things can be carried out beyond the program, but I'm glad that is there for them. And then maybe you're training leaders as well. They're going to go out and hopefully be able to take those reflecting skills out and teach them to other people in the hospital. Have you heard any great, it doesn't necessarily have to be about this topic, but have you had any really good stories about students that have learned something in the program and they've come back and kind of shared that story?
Yeah, that's a great question. Now, the program is so brand new. We've only been around for one semester. We started in August. So, just getting started the first semester, what I heard a lot of, so we're doing things a little bit differently in terms of having this be an online program. We're having the students work as teams from the beginning. They're doing all team-based learning. Thank you to Dr. Holly Bender at the University of Arizona College of Veterinary Medicine. She walked us through how to do team-based learning. That's how they do the curriculum at the new vet school at the University of Arizona. And we were just super fascinated. We said, yep, let's do that. So, not only are we doing all these other new things, we said, let's jump into this. And so, but it's been really, really fun because, I truly believe that teams, that's where we need to be educating our students. We can't teach them anymore that, and I'm speaking for the veterinary students too here, from my own past experience, that we can't be everything to everyone all the time. It's really important to understand your strengths, understand where you need to work on personally, professionally, technically, and how you work as a team to improve outcomes for your patients and for your clients. And so we're really working to instill that from the very beginning of this program. And so this semester, I'm really excited because we actually have our first communication specific course, and I'm co-teaching that. But we're also working on that kind of more informally as they get started in the program. So they're working in small teams of 5 to 7. And a lot of the feedback that we had was, I really enjoyed working with my team. I learned a lot from my teammates. Some of them are coming in with zero experience in a veterinary clinic. Some of them are coming in with lots of experience. And so they're learning from each other. And so they're reflecting on those experiences that they've had, or even through kind of secondary reflection. Oh, it was really interesting to hear my teammate talk about this case that they saw yesterday, even going to tough conversations like euthanasia. Some students have never experienced that before. So opening the door to having these conversations right from the start and hearing what others are experiencing, and then being able to take that back to reflect on, well, how might I handle that when I have to deal with that at some point in this profession? So that's really mostly the feedback that's been so far is working in teams and this communication and kind of the powerful impact that can have. And, going back, I'm like, ooh, I wish I would have had that. I remember, working with small groups. I just loved it. And so I'm excited to keep working with that.
Yeah. Something you said brought up another question. You said that some of the students come in zero experience, and then some, they're actively working in clinic. What is the admissions process for veterinary technicians? I know I experience more on the veterinary side, but what is the admissions process, and what have you kind of learned about that aspect of the program?
That's a great question. And we're adapting our admissions process right now. So it still has to go through some layers of the onion because it's a university. What we're aiming for is to have our students take our 2 introductory courses, which includes a observation requirement in a veterinary clinical setting. And then they're able to declare the major. And the benefit of that is that we can, open their eyes to the field, of course, because, those coming in with an interest and a passion, but maybe not a lot of knowledge or experience, or they can see what the profession is. And we also get a lot of questions about, well, I really want to go to veterinary school. And we say, well, if you want to go to veterinary school, that is a different route. Think about this as being like a human nursing program for veterinary medicine. So if you want to become a doctor, you would go to medical school. If you want to become a nurse, you go to nursing school. So this is the equivalent of nursing school for veterinary medicine. So it kind of clears up those different types of paths as well. And then we get to know our students. We get to know them in that semester. And we say, we can have good feedback and advising with them so that we can really help to make sure that this is exactly what they want when they sign up for 4 years. And so that's really what we're aiming to implement as far as an admissions process.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had a conversation with a veterinary technician about the challenges of people who don't have a lot of experience. And she said that some clinics don't want to hire them without any experience. And she's like, well, somebody has to let them have that experience. I like the idea of you have some classes or opportunities for them to actually understand maybe what they're getting into, make sure that it is something they want to continue to pursue. So I think that's really important. Going forward, what is something that you are really excited about when it comes to education of veterinary medicine?
I love it. And it really lights me up to think about if we reimagine what veterinary medical education could look like. And I think that education has a huge role to play when it comes to thinking about all the challenges that we're facing in veterinary medicine, because how are we setting up our future colleagues? Are we setting them up for success? Are we setting them up to thrive and to have a sustainable career? And education has to adapt. It's a slow moving system because there's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of processes involved, and there's a lot of institutional memory. And there's a lot of wonderful things about that because the faculty in veterinary medical education, tend to be just really passionate, incredible people who care very deeply about the profession. At the same time, the reality is that the world is changing, and it's changing really, really fast. And I worry about just doing things the way they've always been done because I just don't think it's working. And in my experience, my story is after I graduated from veterinary school, I had a phenomenal experience, as I mentioned before, and it through the very best class ever. I really believe so. We just had an amazing family, like 4 years together. I felt like I could take on the world. At the same time, I didn't really understand what the team looked like and what role I would play in the team. And I had the inclination to think that I had to do everything. That's kind of how you learn. You say, well, I've got to be the anesthetist, and I've got to be able to draw blood. I've got to be able to intubate. I've got to be able to do all these surgeries. I've got to be able to talk preventative care. I've got to be able to see an exotic patient that walks in the door. And for me, that certainly led to a lot of stress and strain. And I didn't understand. I was fortunate to be very surrounded by a phenomenal, veterinary team around me when I was in my internship, technicians, assistants, doctors, all of them. But I didn't understand how we work together because it wasn't ever really when we were in school. Of course, I knew that if you needed a question answered when you're on clinics, go speak to the veterinary technician on your service, and please don't make them upset because they're so important. And you really needed to become they were your advocate, and they knew what to do, and they knew how to teach you how to do stuff. That's how I understood, but I didn't understand how, when I graduated, how we were going to work together. And so really what my vision and my passion has become is this idea of interprofessional education and what that could look like for veterinary medical education moving forward. So, traditionally in veterinary medicine, when we think of interprofessional education, it's been thought of a lot of, okay, let's put some veterinary students with medical students, with pharmacy students and dentistry students. And that's great. And that's One Health in action. However, for most veterinarians graduating, going to work out in clinical practice, that's not your team. Your team is the doctors, the credentialed veterinary technicians, the veterinary assistants, your practice managers. If you're lucky enough, you might have a veterinary social worker. There's a different team. This is your day in, your day out, your team. And so I am really fascinated by the idea of putting that into veterinary education right from the start. In an ideal world, I would love to see veterinary technicians and veterinary medical students being educated together through their 4 years, because there are so many things that are foundational to the success of both. And what an amazing opportunity in a safe, controlled environment of school, and having trained instructors, facilitators to help to model this. Couldn't we look at different models of veterinary education that really center on the team and what the impact on outcomes could be? And I think things like well-being, communication, teamwork really are that's so crucial to everyone. So couldn't we all learn these skills together and learn how they all intersect and interact when we get out into clinical practice or whatever type of veterinary medicine we want to be in. And I think, to me, that feels like we're setting our future colleagues up better for success. So I'm really fascinated by this. And there's a little bit of work that's being done over in the UK, because they have, at the Royal Veterinary College, and others, they have veterinary nursing programs side by side with their DVM education program. So over in other countries, we can officially call them veterinary nurses. We're not quite there yet here in the United States, of course. And so I'm really, I'm learning a lot, and I'd love to learn more. I really want to know what that could look like. And I think the idea of a high functioning team could really transform veterinary medicine, and thinking about, how do we use our strengths? How do we stop trying to be everything to everyone all the time? It's just not sustainable. I know it wasn't for me. And what if we could look at it as a team? And how do we, take the foundations of well-being and then where we want to go with access to care, spectrum of care, One Health? I think the middle part is missing. To me, it is the team, because the team has to have the tools in their toolbox. They have to know how to do well-being. They have to know themselves, self-awareness, empathy, these foundational skills that amazingly enough can be taught. And then they have to go out there and do that work that needs to be done. But it's really that team. It's who's doing the work. Could we foster that? Could we do that better so that we're setting them up for success, setting up these leaders who are really going to transform the field and make it better for everyone and the future generations.
So now I have to go hunt down the Royal College and find someone to bring on and talk a little bit about how they run that type of program. So again, you took the next question out of my mouth. I was like, so where do we start? And so it sounds like there are some places that are already implementing this idea. And so we can potentially learn from them. And yeah.
Want more from Vet Life Reimagined? Yes, please. Well, check out the main page of Vet Life Reimagined or click on the next video.